Hey, this is Chris Monk at Highline Guitars, and you're watching episode 56 of From the Luthier's Workbench. In this episode, I'm going to talk about routing the perimeter shape of a guitar body, and I'm also going to share a simple tip on how to apply water-thin cyanoacrylate, also known as CA glue, also known as superglue. So stay tuned and let's get started. Okay, so the reason that we want to route the perimeter shape of a guitar body is because luthiers usually will cut out the shape using either a bandsaw or in some cases a jigsaw. And when you use those tools, it's always a good idea to cut it oversized and leave a little bit of extra wood. As you can see here, I've got about 1/4 of an inch all the way around. That's especially important if you're using a jigsaw, because a jigsaw blade has a tendency to really bend, especially as you're cutting curves. So you want to leave extra wood, and then you're going to go back and you're going to use a router bit like this one. This is a pattern fitting bit. This one in particular has a height of 2 inches and a diameter of 3/4 of an inch, and it has a bearing on the top as well as on the bottom. And that bearing will follow the template on the guitar body as I feed it into the bit, and will remove this excess wood, and the result will be a perfectly shaped, perfectly smooth surface. And that just makes it so much easier to get a precise shape around the whole perimeter of the guitar body. In this case, however, I'm not actually using a template. Typically what we would do is we would use a template that's made out of MDF, like this board here, usually about 1/2 inch thick, or acrylic is also a good material. And you would attach that to the top of the guitar firmly using wood screws in an inconspicuous location like the pickup pockets and the neck pocket. You can also use double-sided tape, and I recommend double-sided woodworker's tape. I know some guys use carpet tape, but I don't recommend carpet tape because carpet tape is designed to be flexible, and even though it will firmly hold a template into position, any sort of lateral force against the sides can cause the template to shift a little bit, and that's not a good thing when you're trying to route a precise body shape for your guitar. So what I'm going to be doing is setting up my simple router table here, and I will begin routing the shape. Now, what's most important about this whole process is knowing how to feed the wood into the bit, because if you're not careful, the bit can actually tear out big chunks of wood. So there is a right way and a wrong way to do it, and I'm going to try to show you both so that you have an understanding of why you need to do it a certain way to reduce that potential for tear out. So let me get this table set up and we'll get started. Before I start routing, I should explain this router table that I'm using. This is something that I made myself. It's nothing more than a 2 foot by 2 foot sheet of MDF board. It's 3/4 of an inch thick. And what I did was, in the very center, I drilled a hole all the way through that is 1.5 inches in diameter. Then what I did was, on the back side here, I recessed another hole that's the same diameter as this fixed base for my router. Then I drilled a couple of holes, 3 holes for the screws to hold the fixed base to the back. And all I have to do is unclamp it, and then I can move the router. I can remove it, or I can move the router up and down to get the height of the bearing where it needs to be to do the routing. And then on either side are pieces of scrap wood. This is just some scrap maple that I attached with wood screws, and these are cleats. And what they do is allow me to clamp this table to my workmate. Any kind of portable clamping workbench like this will work. So all I have to do is, once I have my router installed and the bit at the correct height, I can simply lay the table down and then clamp it into the workbench. And now I'm ready to start routing the perimeter shape of the guitar body. The most important thing you need to keep in mind when routing the perimeter edge of your guitar body is the direction that the router bit is spinning. And I've marked on here, I don't know if you can see it, there's some arrows which I've put on here to remind myself of what direction the router is spinning. Most all routers will spin in the same direction, which is counterclockwise when you're looking down on it. And the reason we need to know that is because we want to know where the bit is digging into fresh wood and where the cutting blade is exiting the wood. And what I try to do is I always try to feed the wood so that the cutting bit, and there's actually two blades on here, one on each side. I want, as the bit is turning, I want the blade to contact fresh uncut wood, and then I want it to exit on where the wood has already been cut away. And it doesn't always work out that way because of the shape of the guitar body. But what I've done over the years is I've figured out a strategy which is the best way to trim a guitar body so that I'm reducing the potential for tear out. A lot of this will depend on the type of wood that you're cutting. For example, mahogany will route very nicely, but woods like alder and poplar can be a little bit more of a challenge. They can tear out, and usually where that tear out happens is around these outer edges where you have a lot of face grain. If you look at the edge of a guitar body, you'll notice you've got face grain here, a little bit of face grain here. But in these areas where it cuts in, you've got end grain. And the end grain is a little less prone to tear out. But if you're not careful, when routing, you can tear out these sections here. So typically, rather than run the bit all the way around here, I actually will start in one spot and finish an area here and then go back and I'll start here and route up to there. So rather than routing all the way through that, I'll start in the midpoint and go in either direction. And then that way it seems to reduce the potential for big chunks of wood getting ripped out by the blade. So hearing protection is a must. Routers are so loud that you don't want to wreck your hearing routing a guitar body, because then you're not going to be able to hear your guitar that you worked so hard to build. So let's get started with this. As you can see, it's really messy. But one thing I neglected to mention that is even more important is as you're routing the perimeter edge, you don't want to try to route away all that wood at once. Go at it in small successive passes, taking off maybe a 1/16 of an inch at a time as you work around here, and just continue to go over it until that bearing is hitting the edge of your template, and then you can move on to the next section and do that. It just works a lot better that way, and it reduces the that potential for tear out. So just keep that in mind. Small bites. So that's the basic technique that I use for routing the perimeter contour of a guitar body. And really all I have to do at this point is just some final sanding to get it nice and smooth and to take out some of the router marks. And if I want to do like a beveled edge or a round over, I could use my router and do it the same way that I formed the perimeter as far as how I feed the wood into it. So if you aren't sure about this technique, I would suggest practicing on some scrap wood. A lot of times when I cut out the body of the guitar, do the rough cut with my bandsaw, I have a nice bit of scrap, and you can use that and kind of practice with your router to get a feel for how this technique works. So there you have it. Now here's a cool way for applying water-thin CA glue to whatever part of your guitar that you need to apply CA glue to, such as installing frets, or as is the case for me today, I'm putting in these little tiny marker dots. And of course, if you try just to put a drop of CA glue straight from the bottle, you know what happens. You get this big mess. So what we need to do is we need to apply it, just a drop of it, very precisely in one small spot so that we don't end up with a mess. And one of the ways that you can do that is you can buy those little, I think they're called pipettes or something like that, that you put over the end, and that will allow you to put a small amount of glue right where you need it. But they don't last very long. They clog up really quick. So I came up with this technique. Actually, I found it on a website for scale model builders. They had developed this technique, and I'm sure other people use it as well, but it's pretty simple. What you need to do is you need to get a sewing needle, and this is kind of what I'm talking about, if I can get it to focus in here. But this is just a very small needle, and what we're going to do is we're going to clip off just the very end of that needle, so we end up with what looks like a two-pronged or two-tined fork. So let's see, we'll get it right in there. And I'm just using a pair of nippers here that I use normally to clip my fret wire. But then I just clip it off, and there you can see it's just a simple little, that end is now open. And you can use different size needles. This is a fairly small one. I also have a much larger one here. And you can either hold the needle just like this to apply the glue, or you can do what I like to do, and that's just to put it into one of these. This is just a little micro drill chuck, and there it just installs like that. And then what I'll do is I'm going to put some of this glue. This is the water thin, super thin CA super glue. And what I like to do is just pour some into, this is a cap that I just pulled off of a gallon jug of water. Any type of cap like this works really great, and they're disposable. So, but you just put a little bit of glue in there, and then you take that open end and you dip it in there, and you'll see the glue will, I don't know if that's going to be visible or not, but it draws up into that open end, and it won't dry. It'll just stay. I mean, it would dry if you let it sit there for, too long, like in 15-20 minutes. It would probably dry, but for now it just stays up in there. Then all I have to do is just touch it to where I'm going to apply it, and the capillary action will pull it out into the wood. And then I just move on. Just keep working my way where I need to apply it. And you can use that same kind of tool to apply glue to your fret tangs before you install the frets if you're looking to glue in your frets. And then clean it out. You just take a little piece of paper here and you just slide that open end onto it and then clean it off like that. Pretty simple. You may need to hit it with a little bit of steel wool to get the excess glue off of there. But that's just a great way for applying super glue very precisely only where you need to apply it.